Call the meeting to order for the agenda setting. Plan of Beaufort County Board of Education on August 26, 2019. Present are the officers, Dr. Rodriguez, John Dowling, and Molly. Please, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? All right. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. The meeting has been properly notified. So in terms of, there's no one from the public here. In terms of approval of the July 29th and August 12th minutes, well, Kathy and I were noticing that it's unclear from these if the changes were made, like that we brought forward previously about the dates seeming to be inaccurate, but perhaps Molly has information about that. He's not. So my advice would be to postpone approval until the next meeting, so Robin can, I know Robin was addressing this.
Yeah, so these are the July 29th meetings, right? Meetings. See,
yeah.
I think, what happened is I think on the agenda, it said they were the July 29th, but they were the other ones, because these are July 29th. So
do you have, so what do you think we can,
It's August, the one, this one that says August 12th,
yeah, August 12th and July 29th.
August 12th,
and then July 29th.
right.
So, what,
See, in here, it said that, on these, at the August 12th meeting, the minutes, that I made a motion to approve the July 29th meeting minutes, but they weren't the July 29th meeting minutes. They were the July 1st meeting. The agenda said they were the 29th minutes, but the July 1st minutes were given by mistake.
Okay, gotcha,
So I believe these are the July 29th minutes.
So you think we're,
So we can just wanna wait, we can wait on that?
Yeah.
or, I mean, I'm happy to do it if you think that's correct, I just, I'm still a little confused.
Yeah, we can just wait. That way she can
Well,
do it right.
It
yeah,
won't matter,
It
we have
doesn't
3
matter.
sets to
Yeah, it
approve.
doesn't.
Okay.
okay, so
Okay.
So we'll just postpone it to these 2 sets
Yeah.
until Robin reviews to be sure they're correct.
and I'll go back and look at the July 1st.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
it's usually noticed it. I think I have it at home also. Alright. So the next topic is the priorities of the officers to shorten the length of the meeting. The video for the work session where this was discussed is not posted yet on the county channel. Do you know anything about that in terms of, is it going to be posted? Is it, because I couldn't review the discussion we had, but Kathy brought with her the tablet paper. Now you look later today, but I was looking today.
Actually, it's still sticky.
Oh,
I'll put it
perfect.
right here.
That's good. Alright.
So. These, the musical performances, they said, Jim Foster said have already been booked through December. Wants to know if we're gonna cancel them.
So we had, the
Yeah.
idea was to pick
3.
one of our top 3.
I don't know, what are your top 3 up there?
Yeah, let's each
Yeah,
put
let's
our
each
top
say
3.
our top 3.
Top 3 as in,
How we could, what of all these things that the board members brought forward, what would be your 3 priorities like there's maybe 10 things there, or maybe there's 15 things there.
Yeah.
2, which would be your top 3 to try that you think would be helpful in getting to our goal of short meeting, like.
The one last, what the next question before we get started, what did we do last week that was different from prior weeks?
I think one, we had a much shorter agenda.
We did.
Just the volume was shorter, the number of topics, and two, we didn't have any celebration at
Right.
all.
No, because school hadn't started
Started
yet,
yet.
so there wasn't anything.
Yeah,
But the previous two meetings, we didn't have any celebrations, and those went on.
yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so long.
So, right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'll give
Yeah.
2 points on or my thought on the
Yeah.
points of celebration. It's the one thing on this agenda, on any board agenda, that's gonna bring parents to a meeting for a positive flavor of the district, right? Most parents aren't gonna come for a conversation on, we got a new grant that's gonna do this, or, right? If they're coming because they've got an issue they want to share with you, you know? But if they come for that, they're gonna come because of a nice thing. Now, do they have to do 3 or 4 songs? No, right? If it's, you know, but that's just a thought about points of celebration. Other than that, that's for the conversation.
Right, oh yeah, because once we get them up there, the point celebration is really not that long. Not most times.
Yeah, I think what's longer is the
Wait a minute,
recognition with getting the pictures taken and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. That's the longer one. I wonder if there's a way to limit the number of recognitions that come every month. I don't know.
I would think that probably, I mean, I'm trying to think back now to Palm Beach, there were some days, some of those meetings where it was quite a bit of things, you know? But generally speaking, they kept it to about, 15 minutes, as they went through, and I would think we could probably do better than that.
Yeah, my comments about what you said is, one, it is a positive, but I will say the parents don't stay for the rest of the meeting.
No, I know that,
They-
I'm
they-
saying they're just coming for that
They're
piece.
coming for that, but they're not coming for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But every now and then, a couple parents will stay for a little bit until they start seeing, and they ain't talking about, so some will. So maybe I would be thinking, one of mine would be maybe to add a meeting. And maybe how about if we add a meeting, maybe then that will suffice some of that. And maybe we have specific meetings where we do those recognitions.
I wasn't saying that they stay for the meeting, I was saying they come just for the experience of their child.
Yeah,
I mean,
John was raising his hand.
I fully understand how it all came to be, and it was part of the board's interest in having the former superintendent do something about public relations, so that it devised all this feel-good stuff to put in the meeting. But I think the question is, without trying to sound like the Grinch that stole Christmas, is how much of the business time of our business meeting are we going to devote to non-business issues? All right, I personally feel that students could be recognized by their peers just as easily as they can by the school board, particularly if we agree to show up at a school-based recognition. And the only other thing I'd like to propose is what I touched on. I think we get too many presentations by staff that we could get in the email and read. Having a staff member come to us and read slides that are what are on board docs just isn't necessarily, I don't think, the best use of my time. I know it's good PR, but we should have a PR committee if that's what we're committed to using time in a business meeting for. That's just my take.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of a third business meeting a month. I think 2 already is, a lot of places only have 1. I think 2 is adequate. I think that we have to, one thing we could do is touching upon what John said too, is perhaps we could have the musical performances be, 5-10 minutes, i.e. they do 1 or 2 songs, And then only do recognition ceremonies maybe for something at the, how should I say, district level or state level or national level. If it's, character of their school, I think once again, that should be at the school.
Yeah,
I think it has more meaning at the
so
school.
what have we done?
Like, there've been, like, the,
The character education traits.
yeah, like,
And there's one trait every month that's one
honesty,
history. Yeah.
perseverance.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that, I didn't
yeah,
know that,
yeah,
I didn't know that,
yeah.
I didn't know that, I was
And
thinking.
it takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't know that,
I think that-
I was thinking it was for, accomplishments, like at this,
Like I said.
or state championship, or
Right.
something like that level.
Right.
Well, I think that takes a lot of time because we come out of executive session late. So when we come out of executive session late already, when we come out of executive, actually, to be honest with you, I don't think we can really be fair or measurable in how long it takes because of the fact of we're always in executive session so long. So when we come out, we're ready to rush to the business side of it, but we have to be out there waiting. So when we're in executive session, we're trying to talk. Then we're saying, well, we got parents out there. So now the people in the meeting are kind of like, well, we got something to talk about that we need to finish before we get to the regular actual meeting second. So I think that's where the frustration is at about the performances. I don't think that the performance is a problem because also you want to put positive media out there from the school board side of it as well. So I'm not in favor of getting rid of that because that also is a component of what we do. So I mean I would go with coming out of executive session at a certain time at 6 or something probably and going back in toward the end of the meeting if necessary. But
That was my number one, to end recess from executive session and then go back in if we have to.
At
What
the
if
end
we-
of the meeting.
At the end of the meeting.
Because
What if we did a time limit here, just said 15 minutes, try that. And if we, we start there, and if we see we're not sticking with that 15 minutes, then we need
Yeah.
to go back. This one, but the musical performance, I think is easier to, because you can just tell them, you've got 6 minutes or,
Right.
and that's
You want
it.
something.
It's these recognition ceremonies that we just have to,
Yeah, I didn't realize
It's
that's.
Individual schools really doing stuff there.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can,
make that
It's
district.
just a fact that might help you with your deliberations. I timed the last 6 musical presentations that we had. The average was 25 minutes. They claim it's 5 minutes. Bring them in, get them set up, let them perform, let them pack up, get out, and a herd of parents leaving before you can restore order comes to about 25 minutes.
Well, they should be set up while we're in executive session.
Yeah.
They should be getting
Yeah.
everything set
Yeah.
up.
Again, if it's what we do is business.
Well,
So the question remains in my mind, should
Well, it
it be
seems
there
like
at all?
but the most important business that we do is deal with students.
exactly.
So,
And we're talking about getting rid of students.
And that seems like a good compromise, is try to limit it to 15 minutes and let's do
and
that
then
for a
we'll
while.
try, if it doesn't work, we'll come
And
back.
that's your job.
and look
Yeah,
at it
that's
again.
my job.
Okay,
Okay, so that's one. All right.
that's one.
Number 2, we all agreed, we'd like to come out of executive session at whatever time is posted on the agenda, and if there's more business to be done in executive session, at the end of the meeting, we'll go back into executive
Right.
session.
Because I think that 2 things happens then. One, if we come out if we are ready to start our business meeting right at 6 o'clock, then our musicians are already in place. They don't have to sit and wait for us to come out.
Right.
They'll be already in place. So that means we have to end executive session 5 minutes early so people can go to the bathroom.
Yep.
And then get in our seats for that. And then the other thing that does is, we know we have to get back in to executive session to finish the meeting. So-
Right. Okay, so, all right, so now we gotta pick a third one.
Shorten the agenda. And that's kind of what John was saying. The presentations,
Yeah.
John?
Can I just elaborate a little bit? The last 2 presentations that we got Friday at the work session, they could have been reading material. And if we had questions about it, we could have submitted them to the superintendent, he could.
And remind me what was the
one
topic?
was
Well-
educational technology, one was the technology one.
Which two are you talking about?
technology outcomes, which weren't outcomes,
Yeah.
and then the summer reading program. That was
What-
no significant value. If it's posted on the website and given to us in private so that we can read it whenever and learn, I don't see any need to tie up meeting time with it.
Well, I disagree with some of that just because of the fact that because you can cut and paste and copy and send me anything. I want to know that that's your information and make sure that you understand that information the way I do, or the way that it is written. Because some people can write one thing, but the way they mean it is something else. And when you hear them, then you will hear the difference in the perception. So, and perception is reality because how you explain to me how you present it is one thing versus how it's written on paper. So therefore, I like to see both of it. I mean, yeah, you don't have to read it line by line, but you can explain slides. So I'm never going to say, I want you to just come up and say, hey, if I ask you a question. No, because the person who wrote that, they put value, they put time into that. So therefore, we need to value, it's our job to value, we have to been put up in this board. So I mean, yeah, I don't mind not reading every single slide to the board, I understand that. But that's to say, no, we need to tell them exactly how we tell them how long they should have, because I think the problem is that we sit here in the meetings and when you actually go out, I will give you kudos on that, because you do actually say, okay, listen, you tell everybody, listen, they have 5 minutes, but then they get up there and they rumble and they go on for a long period of time, which is versus different. Whereas when we discuss it here and we get out there, it's something different. It's not really on us because we have to have contact with what we do as a board. So I think that the key is to give the person how to let them know. Look, we don't need to read every slide to us, but make a brief summary on what's been in your slides, and then we move from there.
The Reader's Digest version?
Maybe it's
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
one,
so-
assigned
so the
time
technology-
frames.
You guys are,
That's what he was saying, yeah.
All right, next.
So the technology presentation was quite frankly, an older presentation that had been developed for a while. They just hadn't been able to bring it forward because,
Right.
for whatever reasons, they didn't bring it forward before. So, I mean, that is one of the things I'm doing is on Monday mornings when I have staff meetings, if there are presentations coming to the board, we're scrutinizing presentations with senior staff on Monday mornings.
Oh, yeah, maybe
So that should-
they should be made to some committees though, rather than the full board. To see if the committee wants to forward it on to the full board. Just,
Well, generally, it's the committee that requests the presentation
Yeah.
to the board. That's my understanding.
someday somebody's gonna catch on that we got a whole bunch here, we're getting nothing here, or next to nothing in board business. And they're gonna say, what do you folks do?
So I agree with Will in that, and also Will, that some staff members are better at summarizing. Some people are just like,
Yes, I'm more
they
skilled
get
at
probably
that.
a little nervous up there and they're just gonna read, what's on the slides, but it's much better when somebody gives a summary of
Yeah, I
the
agree.
slides. Plus, that's the way the public sees it. The public's not gonna see it if it's, sent to us each individually as a board member. I think, we have different, we're in the business of educating children. I think the summer reading program, that was our education project, or whatever word you want to use for the summer. I think the public should know about it. And I think that was vital for the public to hear. And I don't think it should have just been something that only the board members got emailed to them. All right, so let's get back to, so we got the two, and the Friends of Celebration, recess the executive session at 5:55, and shorten the agenda, or assign timeframes. That would be
But,
another.
you said you're going over those on Monday, the presentations with the folks, so maybe if you, just said, where you've only got this amount of time, and then we just really
Yeah.
hold it to them, because that was, remember Dr. Berg would say, yeah, I tell them they have 10 minutes, but they take 20.
Or
So,
40.
or 40.
He said,
yeah.
once they get the microphone, that it's
Yeah,
all over.
yeah,
He
yeah.
said,
But-
people, when they have a microphone, they like to talk. He said
Yeah,
that
he
a bunch
did
of
say that,
times.
yeah. So I don't know, but, or,
Just,
go ahead.
I was just we was just going over basically what, as officers, what we think could shorten the meetings up for the agenda. And we were just saying for points of celebration, we will go with 15 minutes. That was one of them. And the second one was somebody's exec session at 6. And then the last one I was going to ask, kind of agree with what Kathy said, assign time frame. Dr. Rodriguez said he has a handle on it, and I believe that he would. I think those three things moving forward would definitely be. I'm not sure whatever.
No, what?
Also,
So do you want it, so we could have timeframes on basically the whole thing, because then we could have timeframes for, student performance, points of celebration, put 15 minutes there. We could, the public comments would be 30. Let's see, 15, 30, or as long as 30. The committee reports, I mean, those aren't usually real lengthy, but they can be.
You know what, those get lengthy when a committee, like the academic committee, when we had
The ARs.
the ARs presented to the
those were
board.
legit, those were legit ARs that y'all have had.
Yeah.
Because I remember somebody contacted me about one of those ARs and said that they were asking me, they had learned something new from them. But anyway, excuse me.
Or like
Yes,
uniform grading policy.
Right, stuff like that, yeah.
So, what do you, I think it depends, Dr. Rodriguez, with you, for the superintendent's report. I mean,
Can't really put time. I don't think you can really put.
I know,
You can't really put time for. I think if we shorten those things at the beginning of the meetings, I think those right there, that would be enough to start judging it, and we can keep editing that as the next meeting come by. Then we can. I think we can go from there. But I mean, I'm still open to another meeting as needed. I mean, we don't have to have it every month, but if we have a lot of stuff and we see that our agenda or our to-do list is getting backed up, then we can say, hey, look at this month here, we may just need to have 3 meetings this month, or just this month, to get some things out of the way.
so my question for you is, so look, if you look under student achievement, if each thing is only 5 minutes, we're already talking 25 minutes there.
So, the alternative education program proposal is just an update for the board, which if you wanted, we could do it via email instead, but that was, remember after the last meeting, I know this week they're having the conversation with the DOE, and so they were gonna provide an update. Now that could be, we could send that to the board via email,
Or that one could go to the academic committee.
Yes,
or it could go to the academic.
Yeah, John?
Since all these people work for you.
Yep.
Is it an alternative for you to give a summary of each of these categories? It's nice to have somebody come to the board and shine and all that stuff. But actually, they work for you, and you work for us, and you're giving us a report on what they're doing. So could you stand up there and give a 2 or 3 minute summary of what they've been up to and what a great job they do, and have that be the whole segment?
Just have me do the.
Just a suggestion.
Well,
I think that, excuse me, let me just add one last thing.
Go ahead.
I think that would be a normal, considered best practice among governing boards, to have their CEO come in and not have a department head come in and talk about each and every little thing. That's a fact.
I don't think it is a fact.
So, John, I'll give you my experience from where I'm coming from. Essentially, the superintendent sat on the dais with the board, right? Sat not on the desk, but on the dais with the board, okay? And essentially played air traffic controller with staff that would come up to do presentations. So it was the chief of whatever division with 1 or 2 that would come and do presentations for the board or make announcements for the board. The superintendent's report was essentially just a, really like a 3 to 5 minute window of what's been happening in the district since the last board meeting, right? But the actual presentations about the in-depth piece was actually done by staff and the superintendent just sort of managed to come. Now,
Wait a second, you don't have the floor. Do one of you guys want to speak?
Oh, well, I was gonna say that, Dr. Rodriguez, I kind of agree more with that line because of the fact that Dr. Rodriguez, at some point in time, this is no disrespect, and when it comes down to some of these stuff in the education component, you will know what's going on, but if you have all this stuff on top of your mind to perform, then you may get something, you may forget something versus the person of the education department coming up and her giving the presentation, and she's sat right before that meeting. She went through every little detail, and she kind of hit the main key points. She's giving us a brief summary. Versus if you have to do all of that, then and also it's about relationships as well. I think it's better for the person who department is to come up and give us that. You know, if there's something that you need to chime in on, as though we've done, I think would be kind of better.
Kathy?
Okay, from my experience, educationally, it's always been what Dr. Rodriguez describes, that they've given. From my experience business-wise, when my husband worked for Bank of America, he would go to board meetings with Hugh McCall, and he'd talk about the credit card industry, not you, because Ron was the chief risk officer. So John, you said that that's a fact.
Yeah.
It isn't
I'm
really a
just
fact.
giving you an alternative fact. When I worked for,
You don't have to recognize. You're giving an opinion, but go ahead.
when I worked for a Fortune 12 company, okay, nobody got near the board of directors except the CEO and the president. Okay? That is also a fact. And number two, don't go up north to a board meeting. You might be quite surprised. I don't care. All I care about is what you think of the job that Nikia Campbell's doing. Because it's not my job, and that's what how she's doing it, or why she's doing it, or what she's doing it. My job is to feel comfortable that you've got things under control. You're the only one I want to talk to, or hear from. I'm not playing at being an educator.
But these,
Go ahead.
okay, I just think that for Dr. Rodriguez to stand up and talk about math data, that's really in the weeds. And I know he knows that data, but so then maybe we don't even need a presentation on math data, because that's really in the weeds. That's what your concern is, John, that these people get more in the weeds than what he would give us.
You're right. Is the data that Fallon's going to give us necessary for us to make a decision on something? Or is it just support? We're going to ask Dr. Rodriguez when it comes time to make a decision on something.
I think the question I have around it is, if we're gonna ask questions that get into the weeds as a result of a high-level briefing, right? Then if you're getting into the weeds, because something piqued your interest in something that was said, and then you wanna go deeper into that, I may not be able to tell you on what day somebody called somebody from DOE to get X, Y, or Z response, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But this was the response we got, you know what I mean? So it depends on how deep, because then we might end up calling them up there anyway in order to get up there to respond to the in the weeds conversation.
Well,
That's what you're saying.
I think that we should keep it like this and let's see, because this will be our first time having working on the agenda, and afterwards we can come back and have after action review, and grade it, and then start taking things away. But with us making these minor adjustments, I think that we've got a start, a good start this far. I don't think that we should change too much, because Dr. Rodriguez is also just coming in. give him a fair shot to see what we have going on. And he may even want to have something where he may want to cut some things himself. But us coming in right now doing that, I don't think that we'd be giving him a fair shot to see how our board meetings has been running and what all is going on. And that way I do understand that it is a board meeting. But he may be able to see some stuff, so he can tell people, hey, this is we might not want to do this at the meeting versus this, that, and the third. I mean, I think our meetings are very, sometimes are very detailed, and some of our meetings do get long. However, I believe that we need to give out a great amount of information, and that we do get asked questions and go through things. I mean, me personally, well, that's what I want to say. I just think that we're out of
Yeah.
Okay, so if we move alternative education proposal to the academic committee, then there are 4 things down here. What is ESE, Dr. Rodriguez?
Oh, it's SPED. It's exceptional student education.
Oh, okay,
But here we call it SPED, so that's just
okay.
language.
Well, why would we move that when we, and me myself personally, we have asked for that to come before the board, to keep the board as a whole to keep the eye on it, because that has been a big deal. So why would we move that? The academic proposal, when that proposal has been something that has, you know, I mean, I don't think, I mean, I'm sure she can come before and do that proposal within 5 minutes. I don't think that, you know.
This is I think it's something that's already been written and submitted.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right,
think this is
it's not
this
the
is a
Island
follow-up
Academy
because they
thing.
came, right, this is sort of a follow-up, to brief the board on what they
Right,
got.
right.
I think Wednesday they're supposed to have this big dialogue with the deal.
Okay, well,
Yeah, it is. Because we saw her this weekend, remember? Was that lady we saw this weekend?
Which lady?
The lady from State Department?
I'm blanking on who you're
Okay.
referring to.
so let's get back to the agenda.
That Barbara Drew.
Yes, ma'am, I see, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, is there anything
Which lady?
here, like SPED, that started out at the academic committee,
Right.
but is this just an overview? I mean, are these things?
Yeah, what is this exactly? Sped services.
So, Molly, when we talked this morning, I had alternative data, I had map data, the district strategic plan and the school improvement plan. I didn't have the SPED information on there. Was that something that Ada came by?
Yes, and Mary.
Okay. So I'll just have to have that follow-up conversation
Okay.
with Mary about coming here before going.
Maybe we could take one of those off then. I don't know.
Well, right now, I mean, if you look at these, I think the key thing is that they have to know their material super well. They have to know their whole slide set really well, but they gotta give a, 3-minute presentation of what is the takeaway from their slide set, instead of, takeaway. What is the takeaway from the information we have there? And I think some people are very good at that, and other people don't excel at that. But I think that would be your responsibility as you meet with them on the Monday mornings, like you already mentioned. I'm curious, since Mr. O'Campbell has a question for you, because you've been a board member for many moons. What has it ever been with these presentations like this? Has it ever been the superintendent that does all the presentations for all the departments?
No, never.
No, okay. And how has it been done in the past?
They had the staff come up and present, and if, then the board would ask questions.
That's what takes so long.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, our meeting's not long because of what we have on this agenda.
It's not, I agree.
And if you go back and look at the 2 meetings that, but nobody wants to admit it. What's on the agenda don't have a cause our meeting to be long.
No, especially if there's some time limits or
Right.
time frames that we're recommending here. Because just, if all these people do only 5 minutes, including the highly qualified teachers,
Right.
vacancies, et cetera, right there you get 30 minutes, so, And that's not even questions from a board member. So I think probably really the takeaway should be about a 3-minute thing.
Yeah, this one here on goal number 2 is really just a 1 to 2 minute thing. It's, this year, just so the board's aware, we hired,
Right,
That's what we need to
these
do.
many
Exactly.
teachers,
right.
and we still have this many
3
vacancies.
vacancies.
Right.
That's it, that's all it is. Just that's the bottom line piece.
So, let,
Yes.
Just one suggestion. These people probably vary all over the map on how much experience they have talking to boards. If you can give them some guidance, here's what the board needs to know, so that they don't go off on a tangent about what they think is important to the board. But give them some guidance about what the takeaways are to center around.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And so,
And
That's good.
you're gonna be listening to them before they present them to the board, correct?
I am.
Okay, so, I
I
mean,
always,
yeah, so you know the information they have, and you're
Chop it.
our CEO, so
We'll
you
chop
need
it.
to know, exactly. This is all there, yeah.
yeah.
All right, Kathy.
I just wondered that to shorten the meetings though, because these presentations, if they're just 3 minutes each, it's the questions that go on forever. So maybe that's another thing that we say, is everyone gets
Well,
one question?
well, no, I mean, I was gonna say, okay, Ms. Campbell made a good point, you made a point, and I hear what you're saying. So now, let the board see, that when these people come up, and they do their 5-minute presentation, and then we can, as the officers or whatever, we can just see how long they take on their presentation moving in, and then from there, after they make their presentation and they sit down or they start taking questions, then we can see, we start timing from there how long we take. So now we can start analyzing where the large amount of timing is coming from. So that's why I said, if we analyze too much, then we're not gonna be able to see different components, because we need to get to see, we need to get to see component 1, component 2, component 3. So let's see from here. Dr. Rodriguez, or they say he's gonna advise these people on how long they need to come in with the quick points, come in with the most important information. And then now from there, okay, after they say, okay, this is our presentation, Q&A, okay, let's see how long Q&A takes. Then now, as a board, we understand whether it's actually us taking the time or how we need to tell our questions. But if we just start telling everything right now, then we won't get that, because we'll be back in this room again, going back, after review, dissecting it again. That's something, but I think you may think different.
Well, one thing I would say is that if you think about it, you've got six presentations here. If every board member asks a question, let's say that takes 1 minute, that's pretty quick. I mean, you've got 11 board members, you've got 66 minutes right there. So a way to make it a little quicker would be is they do all their presentation, and then we could have questions, because then the most important questions are gonna rise to the surface. That'd be one way to do it. You can also say everybody has an opportunity to ask a question, and then additional questions can be maybe emailed. I mean, we have to, a lot of it is the questions afterwards. It's not necessarily just what they're presenting. Go ahead.
I agree.
Yeah.
Part of my experience in going to 3 or 4 board meetings a week for my living was that the better presentations answer questions before they're asked. One measure of a good presentation is how few questions does it generate. And a lot of times, the presentations get a ton of questions from the board members, because they should, because the presentations are totally lacking in what a board needs to get out of the presentation. So I would say, rather than trying to limit questions right off the top, let's try to improve the presentations. And I would not be at all surprised if the amount of questions did not shrink from a qualitative improvement in the presentations.
I mean, if we didn't have presentations, which was your initial suggestion that people just put things online, up for us to read, then then people wouldn't be able to ask questions unless they did it through email, right? What were you envisioning with that, John?
If I were to get a presentation on email and I read it through and I come up with a couple of questions, I would wait and see if those questions are answered in the takeaways in the presentation itself, okay? That's one choice, or I could email, print it and say, hey, I just got this, can you have them be prepared to talk about this, or can they flip me a note to say what it is? I think you'd find that relatively few and far people. If the presentation is on point, if the presentation's on point, I think it answers questions before they get asked.
Hi, I'm with WACO. We're recording the meetings to see what you guys are talking about, especially when it comes to the drug testing of students.
This is agenda setting.
This is
meeting.
agenda setting meeting.
It's not the 5:30.
No,
This is a 4:30 meeting.
that's operation.
Oh, is that?
5:30.
That's at 5:30.
Yeah.
It's just in the same room.
Same room, yeah.
Oh, okay. Then I'll just come back at 5:30.
Alright, so, yes, Mr. Campbell.
In the, before, in the past, the person that was having it during the presentation, we would get a copy of it, and if you had a question, you would call that person, and that's the reason why our meeting didn't last so long, because very few questions was asked.
So you're saying the questions were asked by the board members via
Yes.
phone in
Yes.
advance of the
Right.
presentation?
Right, yeah.
That's the way it was.
So one of the things that I think we do need to improve on, and Dr. Rodriguez can help us with this, with these presentations, if they have slides, if they have something they're gonna be showing, we need to have them by Thursday night, so that they can be posted. And maybe that's the thing too, if we don't have it by Thursday night, it's off the agenda, because we don't have time to look at it. And then if we did that, you know, that might weed things out, and if we looked at them ahead of time, like John said, if we had questions, we could shoot those questions, either however you want us to handle it, directly to the person who's giving the presentation, or through you,
Yeah.
and then maybe by the time the presentation comes, they'd be answered.
Or they'd know what we were interested in.
Right.
Right, because the understanding is, if the question's not answered before, it's gonna get asked again in public.
Yeah. So what do you think of that?
That's fine. I have a quick question on the last couple. Have you been getting them by Thursday?
Not everything. Right off the top of my head, I'd say no.
Okay. Okay.
Some, yes, but not all.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea. If we don't have it by Thursday evening, they're off the agenda. I think that's the way it ends, all that.
If it's not a PowerPoint presentation, it's just somebody that's gonna give you a 2 or 3 minute, or 2 minute
Right, and that's different.
piece.
And they're not gonna show anything,
Yeah.
nothing, no video,
Right,
No,
or
no data.
no visual,
right.
tools, then they don't have to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not gonna have anything, but if they're gonna use something visual, it's gotta be there Thursday
Right.
night.
If we need to have background information.
So, a few other things. So you also wanted to add, since it's part of your 90-day entry plan, the retreat, where would you like to put that?
Well,
Under
number five?
superintendent.
five
Yeah.
places.
Where is superintendent?
No?
Superintendent's report is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So, retreat, we'll go under there.
We had,
Probably need a different name for it
Well,
yeah,
though, other than
well,
retreat.
just
Yeah,
whatever you want, it's
Yeah.
fine, you know, with
We
our.
want to give the impression of moving forward,
yeah.
Yeah.
so retreat is not good.
We did have a request for the agenda from David Strippinger, about whether we're gonna have police officers at our meetings.
I would say that would be better handled, I think, at the operations committee.
Okay, so we're gonna,
Because then you guys can look what the cost is, yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, part of it is based on their time, usually a couple $100 a meeting.
I don't care if it's 50 cents.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on now.
Okay, will you guys?
So we're handing this, I just
Yeah,
have,
I'm taking that off.
Yeah.
okay.
All right,
All right.
doing an operation, so,
Yeah.
all right. I figured it'd be so quick.
Boomerang, it came right back to you.
All right,
Okay. Did you have any, Bill, any list of agenda items that were requested? I just wrote these down from my
I have
list.
one that I sent out Friday.
The legal contracts with
Yeah.
bond counsel,
Mhm.
yes. I think that may have to go on the next agenda, I don't know, this one's pretty full, but.
Yeah, I would think that would have to go. I said, with the agenda that we have, right now, the way it's set, so that we can time it, well, I mean,
Okay, it's a fairly serious issue. We're missing over $200,000 worth of payments that are not supported by any documentation whatsoever. And that little bit of smoke may indicate a larger fire.
so who would have that information? Would that be under finance?
I submitted an internal request on 22 June to the interim superintendent. Several weeks later, due to inaction, I filed a FOIA request. We all got a report on 9 July of what disbursements have been made, which is half of my request. Of these disbursements, there is nothing to document them whatsoever. No contract, no letter of understanding, no letter of engagement, no letter of anything, or no invoice. So I think it's a very serious question of how these payments are being made, how they're being calculated. Franny Heiser has worked for us for 15 years without any kind of an agreement whatsoever. Now, if we're ever going to get the public trust back, we have to so that we're functioning like a business organization as well as an educational organization, or at least pay attention to some business. So if you want to put it off until later in September, be my guest, it's your call. But yeah, I think it's a serious issue.
Right, okay, we're not, I didn't understand all that, but my question was, would that be a finance, that would be a finance question?
No, that's a question of the superintendent.
Okay,
well,
He can farm it out to whoever he wishes, unless you want to send it to a committee, which I think it would be the finance committee.
what can we say that to finance committee?
we have fiscal responsibility here. And you're obviously investigating this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, and actually y'all are gonna get an email from me,
Yeah.
either today or tomorrow morning.
Well, I got a call Friday that said I'd have it today. I don't have anything. And what I was told Friday I'm going to have is not what I asked for in the first place.
Okay, we're getting off topic.
Okay.
So I think the best place to go, I think from off the top of my head, our agenda is gonna be very full also at the second meeting in September, because that's when we're getting all those TSI
Priority
schools,
schools.
all the priority schools.
So,
I think the teacher forum is coming before us.
okay,
So I would say, do
so,
under fiscal responsibility, you're already gonna provide the information to the board members ahead of time.
okay. So, John, are you okay with it going under physical responsibilities?
Which meeting, the second meeting?
No, this one, we're gonna do this one. Everybody got already, yes or what?
Yeah,
It's on
that'd
there.
be great.
Okay, all right, so everyone's happy.
What's the title of that?
What was the title of it, John?
It was legal contracts
contracts
with
with
board
board
counsel,
counsel.
bond counsel.
Bond
Legal
counsel.
contracts.
Yeah, bond counsel.
Okay.
All right, the consent agenda, we got the minutes, we may have to split them up, because sometimes people haven't been to both of those meetings. Future agenda topic, the announcements, public comments is 15, so I think we covered the
Yeah.
main things.
I'm looking forward to seeing.
So, what's your opinion, I'd like to know your opinion on, like, for example, the student achievement. Do you think it'd be beneficial to have all of them present and then the board questions? That's definitely, like I already mentioned, I think that's gonna bring out the more important
Well, I
questions.
think that'll, since there's, Or
We
a
got
few
5
items
things
on
there.
here, you'll ask the questions on what you wanna ask the questions on after you hear it all, I guess.
Where's student achievement at?
Right here,
Remember
under
one.
all those.
So what I'm
Right.
saying
Under all
is,
those.
Right, so are y'all saying that, when you said that, are you saying that basically we should wait until all of these?
well, that's what I asked his
Yeah, I mean,
opinion.
that-
What, you're gonna have then your most important questions come forward. Now, you can ask questions via email ahead of time, or ask them, I don't understand this, or.
Now, once they ask me that once they get done with their report, I don't see a problem with asking that individual who's standing up there, because most of the time, once the staff members get done with their report, they leave. So I think that we should act, so once they get done with their whole report, that's when at the end, no matter how they do Q&A, I think that that's the appropriate time, because it's fresh out there on their mind, and they're engaged mentally. I think that's the best time to ask them their questions.
Oh, I think probably right after each presentation,
Yeah.
however, that's where we get into trouble, that's where it gets really long. So,
But we have to put it off on the people's scale, I apologize.
maybe we just have to say, we have to cut the conversation off after so long. We can't let it go on for 20 minutes on each one. We're just gonna have to cut it off. And we could even, that was manage the discussion was one of our things for way to shorten meetings, so, I don't know, I guess we have to try it and see what happens if we get
Yeah,
pushback
I mean, I'm
from
good for either,
people.
I'm just,
Yeah,
you know.
I think that change happens over a period of time. When you go in there and you gut and you push and you force a change immediately, it doesn't go over well. I think that the measures that we've made have been significantly a start. And like I said, we can continue to have after action review after each board meeting. I think the measure that we took, right, the 3 measures that we took is a start. We don't know everything. This is a team process. Everyone has to play their role in it. I think the measure that we took is the way to start. Once again, I don't think that we need to try to push it down. I think we should see what we've done so far, how it works, and then come back and see where we're at as a board.
I think the one thing you'd find, I'm just as guilty as the next person, okay? But if somebody gives a 3-minute presentation, and then the attaboy's great job comes up to 6 or 7 minutes from everybody, okay?
Yeah.
So we gotta discipline ourselves to shorten that. Say either great job or say nothing, man.
I'd say if you could keep the discussion to questions,
Yeah, as opposed to
as opposed to
congratulations,
statements.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
People would
Yeah,
actually
I
ask
agree,
questions.
I agree.
yeah, that's a good point.
Well, yeah, but in respect to that, I'm not. When it comes to me, I won't change that because of the fact that if you can beat them up there, you can tell them a good job up there. You have to pay. My mama said, "I spank you publicly and I praise you publicly." So I'm gonna let people know Reverend did a good job out of there from my perspective. That's how I feel.
All right, we gotta wrap it up, and I think we had a real good discussion and good agenda.
Just for clarification, anything, we didn't move anything to academic committee?
Guess not.
No, sir.
Because it sounded like you're just gonna give a short update.
Update,
and-
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The one thing we moved from, to operations was the necessity or not of.
Of police
Of a police
officers,
officer.
and that wasn't on here.
All right, so the next agenda setting meeting for our September 17th board meeting normally would fall on Monday, September 9th at 4:30, and let's see, what else do we have on there? Do you know, Molly, off the top of your head? Nothing's that day. We have a bunch of stuff on Tuesday, September 10th.
You said on Monday the 9th?
Yeah,
Agenda.
because that would be 8 days ahead of the meeting.
Yeah.
That's usually what we've been doing.
Okay.
So let's say 4:30 and.
Here
where?
again,
Here?
or check.
Okay, 4:30 at Bluffton Library on September 9th. All right? I don't think we're discussing any other board meeting agendas. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move.
So, yeah, second.
All those in favor?